The last train home, the fluorescent lights flickered in the abandoned subway tunnel, casting long shadows across the graffiti-covered walls. Sarah Mitchell sat on the cold concrete floor, her white business suit now dusty and wrinkled. She clutched a yellow folder against her chest, the quarterly report she had been working on until midnight. Her designer heels lay discarded beside her, one strap broken from her desperate attempt to run when she first realized she was trapped. The station had closed hours ago. Everyone else had left, but Sarah had stayed behind, determined to finish reviewing the merger documents in the quiet of the empty platform. She had not noticed the janitor turning off the main lights. She had not heard the final security check. She had simply looked up from her papers to find herself alone in the dark, with the heavy security gates locked and no way out. Now, tears streaked her carefully applied makeup. Her phone battery had died an hour ago. The emergency call button on the wall remained silent, no matter how many times she pressed it. Sarah had never felt so small, so powerless. For someone who commanded boardrooms and negotiated million-dollar deals, being trapped in this cold, dark place stripped away every layer of confidence she had built over 15 years of climbing the corporate ladder. "Please, don't leave me here alone," she whispered to the empty tunnel, her voice barely audible over the distant drip of water somewhere in the darkness. That was when she heard footsteps. Marcus. Jen moved through the tunnel with the quiet confidence of someone who had walked these paths 1,000 times before. He wore the dark blue uniform of the subway maintenance crew, his work boots echoing softly against the concrete. His flashlight beams swept across the walls as he conducted his nightly inspection of the old station, the one scheduled for renovation next month. He was not supposed to be here this late. His shift had ended 2 hours ago. But Marcus had promised his daughter, Emma, that he would pick up extra hours this month to pay for her school trip to Washington, D.C. At 8 years old, she had been talking about seeing the museums for weeks. He could not let her down. He'd never let her down, not since her mother had passed away 3 years ago, leaving Marcus to navigate single parenthood while working 2 jobs. The beam of his flashlight caught something unexpected, a figure sitting against the far wall. Marcus approached slowly, cautiously. Homeless people sometimes found their way into these abandoned sections, and he always treated them with respect and kindness. But as he drew closer, he realized this was different. The woman wore expensive clothes, though they were now dirty. She looked terrified, her eyes wide and red from crying. "Ma'am," Marcus called out softly, not wanting to startle her. "Are you all right?" Sarah's head snapped up. For a moment she could not speak. Then the words tumbled out in a rush. "The gates, they're locked. My phone died. I've been here for hours. I pressed the emergency button, but no one came." Her voice cracked, and fresh tears began to fall. Marcus knelt down beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. He had learned over the years that frightened people needed space and gentleness. Emma had taught him that during her first thunderstorm without her mother. "It's okay," he said, his voice steady and calm. "You're safe now." "My name is Marcus. I work maintenance for the subway. Let me help you." Sarah studied the man's face in the glow of the flashlight. He had kind eyes, the sort of eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, which he did now, gently, trying to reassure her. There was something solid about him, something trustworthy. She found herself taking a shaky breath, the panic that had been crushing her chest beginning to ease just slightly. "I'm Sarah," she managed to say. I was working late. I didn't realize they'd locked everything up." Marcus nodded, understanding immediately. "The old station closes at 9 on weekends for renovations. Security does a quick sweep, but..." He paused, tactful enough not to point out that she should not have been there in the first place. "Let me get you out of here." "Can you walk?" Sarah glanced at her broken heel. "Not in these. May I?" Marcus gestured to her shoes. When she nodded, he picked them up and examined the damage. "These won't work." "Good thing I keep spare equipment in my locker." He shrugged off his work jacket and handed it to her. "Put this on. It's cold in the tunnels, and we have a bit of a walk ahead." "Walk? Can't you just unlock the gate?" Marcus shook his head. I don't have the security codes for this section, but I know another way out, through the maintenance corridor. It connects to the active station 3 blocks over. That one stays open until 2 in the morning. They walked in silence at first. Marcus led the way, his flashlight illuminating the path ahead. Sarah followed in her bare feet, grateful for the warm jacket that smelled faintly of coffee and sawdust. Comforting. Human smells that grounded her. The maintenance corridor was narrow, with pipes running along the ceiling and old electrical boxes mounted on the walls. Their footsteps echoed strangely in the confined space. Sarah found herself watching Marcus's back, the way he moved with such assurance through what seemed like a maze to her. "You do this often?" she asked, her voice sounding strange after so long in silence. "Rescue people from locked stations?" Marcus glanced back with a small smile. "First time, actually. Usually I'm just checking for water damage and making sure the old electrical systems aren't going to catch fire. Lucky for me, then, that you were here tonight. Lucky for both of us," Marcus said. "I almost didn't come. I should be home with my daughter, but—" He paused, then continued. "We needed the overtime. Emma wants to go on her school trip next month." Sarah felt something twist in her chest. Here she was, a CEO of a mid-sized marketing firm, someone who spent her days making decisions that affected hundreds of employees and millions of dollars. And she had been rescued by a man working a second shift to pay for his daughter's school trip. "How old is Emma?" she asked softly. 8, smart as a whip. "Wants to be an archaeologist." The pride in Marcus's voice was unmistakable. "She's been reading everything she can find about ancient Egypt. Drives her grandmother crazy asking questions all the time. Your mother watches her while you work?" "Yeah, I don't know what I'd do without her help. Being a single parent." He trailed off, then added, "You do what you have to do." They emerged from the maintenance corridor into a small access room filled with cleaning supplies and equipment lockers. Marcus opened his locker and pulled out a pair of old sneakers. "They'll be too big," he said apologetically, "but better than nothing." Sarah slipped them on. They were indeed too large, but infinitely better than walking barefoot. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him, this man who had materialized out of the darkness when she needed help most. He had not asked why she was there. He had not lectured her. He had simply helped, "Marcus," she said quietly. "Thank you. Not just for getting me out, but for being kind. I was so scared." He met her eyes, and she saw understanding there, the kind that came from knowing what it meant to be afraid, to be alone, to need help. "We all need someone sometimes," Marcus said simply. No shame in that. 10 minutes later, they stood in the bright lights of the active station. Sarah blinked in the sudden illumination, feeling like she was emerging from a different world. The night janitor looked up in surprise, but Marcus just waved and led Sarah to the exit. Outside, the city was still alive. Cars passed by, their headlights cutting through the darkness. A few people walked past, heading home from late shifts or early morning jobs. Sarah had never been so happy to see ordinary life. "Can I call you a cab?" Marcus asked. Sarah shook her head. "I'll call my driver. He's probably worried sick." She paused, then reached into her folder and pulled out her business card. "I know this might seem strange, but how much is Emma's school trip?" Marcus stiffened slightly. "I wasn't telling you that I know, but please, let me do this. You saved me tonight, Marcus. Not just from being trapped, but from—" She struggled to find the words. "From forgetting what really matters. I've been so focused on work, on the next deal, the next quarter, I forgot about the simple act of helping someone." She pulled out her phone, which she had retrieved from her purse, and opened her banking app. "What's your email? I'll transfer the money for the trip." And she hesitated, then continued. "We're hiring at my company. We need good people in our facilities management department. People who take pride in their work, who are reliable. If you're interested, come by on Monday." Marcus looked at the business card, then at Sarah. "You don't have to. I want to," Sarah said firmly. "Emma deserves to see those museums. And you deserve not to work yourself to exhaustion." For a long moment, Marcus said nothing. Then slowly he smiled, a real smile that lit up his entire face. "She's going to be so excited." Send me pictures, Sarah said. I want to see her at the Smithsonian. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in her corner office looking at the photo on her desk. Marcus had sent it yesterday, Emma standing in front of a dinosaur skeleton, her face glowing with joy, her arms spread wide as if she could embrace the entire museum. Sarah had the photo framed. She also had Marcus's old sneakers. In her office closet, a reminder that sometimes being lost in the dark was exactly what you needed to find your way home. Marcus now worked as her facilities director, managing the entire building with the same quiet competence he had shown that night.